So, Nick, when the film we're talking about today, The Neon Demon, played at Cannes, it received boos and it received cheers. It had people walking out partway through, and it had people hailing it a masterpiece. And it's actually the second Nicolas Winding-Refn film to do so, and it's actually one of a very rare breed of films that actually has this happen. I think the only other one I could think of was Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, where people were booing and cheering at the end because they just didn't want to even feel like their brains are melting.
Yeah, it's almost an experience to go to Cannes just to boo or cheer something.
Yeah, you have to. If you don't have an opinion on it, then that's almost worse than booing.
All right, we're going to talk about 2016, a very polarizing movie, Neon Demon, a film that it's still, after 5 years after I watched it still bothers me. I don't know if it's like a good bother or bad bother. It just bothers me.
And we're going to talk about that today. A film that is it better to be hated or is it better to be meh about? Today on Kyle and Nick on Film. Join us. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoetheReviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. And thanks for watching. If you like, please hit the like button. Subscribe also. And if you're a loyal viewer and watch our videos, thank you for continuing to support us. If you want, there's a Patreon option down below. Check out the Patreon for the options and become a team member. And you get to pick and choose what Kyle and I get to talk about or say. So look those over. So thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Neon Demon, what were we talking about?
Neon Demon today. We are talking Nicolas Winding-Refn's very controversial and polarizing, unless you haven't seen other movies of his, film, The Neon Demon, which features Jessie, an aspiring model who's come to Los Angeles in search of a career and a new chance at life. Her beauty and youth quickly help her rise the ranks of the fashion world, much to the chagrin of envious models Gigi and Sarah. Jessie is about to discover that a world that thrives on beauty has an ugly side, and danger lurks on every catwalk.
All right, Neon Demon, which kind of does, we just talked about it, has a little bit of elements of Blue Velvet and La La Land mixed in together. It came out just before, I believe, La La Land. Yep. Here, Jessie is played by Elle Fanning. Who's got the biggest supermodel eyes of all time, and I think that's why she probably got casted. And the reason why I say this character seems, as I've watched this multiple times, seems almost like a deer ready to be sacrificed. Not only is she going to be sacrificed, she doesn't really care as long as it is the most important thing and to get ahead in life. It's almost like she doesn't really care. You're going to murder me? Fine.
Well, and this is also Elle Fanning's other movie where she portrays the epitome of beauty, because she was Sleeping Beauty in Maleficent. So she gets another film, very different film, I might say, where she exemplifies beauty, and I think that's because Elle Fanning exemplifies natural beauty.
Yeah, they talk about it in the movie.
That's what's so important to it, is that her character is not perceived as supermodel-esque, but she's perceived as naturally beautiful. And I think there's a very important distinction that's being made there. Nicolas Winding-Refn is very much trying to tackle the concept of beauty, especially in Hollywood, especially in LA, and especially in the modeling world, to varying degrees of success. And I will say this about the film. It's memorable.
Okay.
It is polarizing, but the biggest frustrations I have are not around
the content.
No, it's not about the visual appeal of the film. The film is like a gorgeous painting that moves for 2 hours.
Yeah.
But it's that the story itself is virtually crumbling underneath the weight of it.
Yeah, because you have to have that ending. Needed to be that kind of an ending. You needed a punch to it.
Well, and my problem with the ending, and we are going to warn you guys, we're going to try and kind of skirt around spoilers, but you're just going to get them in this movie because it's, the film is the ending. The film is very much everything going to it.
Yeah.
And so I'll say this, the ending itself, when I learned that it was improvised and kind of played off the cuff and really kind of put together in a group setting, I feel like the ending is a complete misdirection from where we're going with the movie. Maybe if I watch it a second time, I'll feel different about it, but I feel like there isn't enough in the first hour and a half to make that last 30 minutes pop. Yeah. For me, because it was kind of like, oh, it just happened. And I'm like, but what? Really? It plays itself as a horror movie, but it's not really a horror movie.
Yeah, but you can't tell anybody it's not, because they're like, well, this is kind of gory.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about with Jessie is because she's an element of dangerous. She's going to be dangerous not only to herself, but to people around her, and people are going to be threatened by her. So she's going to be the marker everywhere she goes, and she knows that. And she talks about, well, you want to hang out with those people, and she's like, no, they want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
So she already knows that she's going to be the barometer to everybody. Everybody's going to be jealous of her. Everybody's going to be around her. And of course, everybody wants a piece of her. That's literally what is modeling. Is they want you to strip your identity and to be part of a vessel of an image, style, or whatever. Yeah.
Well, I think
but she's comfortable with it.
There's something to be said too about like Refn utilizing. I mean, he cast an underage girl to play this epitome of beauty, and to also he sexualizes her in the film in a way to skewer Hollywood and LA and all these people who sexualize people who are underage.
Yeah.
Like, and it's again like.
It's not celebrating it.
It's not celebrating it.
Yeah.
We have to point that out because like it is kind of, it's a very uncomfortable thing when you know that going into the film, like, no, I don't feel right. This feels gross. This
she hasn't finished high
dirty.
school.
Yeah, and what it comes down to for me is, I'm going to tell you something. Back in Easter, I bought a package of Cadbury cream eggs. And I enjoy them once a year.
I'm ready.
And you know, the last one that came in the package on Easter Sunday, I saved for that day. I was so excited. And it felt weird in my hand. And I bit into it, and it did not have any cream in the middle. And that's what The Neon Demon feels like to me. It's a film that surprises you by the lack of substance in it because it's trying to just skewer something. And it kind of falls in the middle of being a Black Swan movie, which has a story, but then has symbolism and themes, or Mother, which is all symbolism. And like the story is literally
all
the
symbolism and tone.
Whereas this movie feels like it's trying to have a story and a symbolism, and it's successful at the symbols, and I don't think it's successful at the story because the story changes and turns and twists, but it never really goes anywhere for me.
One of the things I like the movie. I think it's interesting. It's wonderful to watch. There's a lot of aesthetics, so there's great camera work, and there's a lot of awesome gaffing and the style and everything. But one of the things is the evolution of characters. There is absolutely none. They don't change. All of a sudden you get personalities.
The only one that I think does change is Jessie, because she comes to LA in search of being this model. But she's also very innocent at the beginning of the film. Like she wants to do things, but like she's given a choice: are you food or are you sex? And since we later find out she is a virgin, she's obviously food.
Both. Oh, she's both.
You know, she starts out food though.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's that change where she starts to make choices that get her deeper into the modeling world, that raise her in the fashion iconography, but in doing so she starts to lose bits and pieces of her. I'm talking about Dean, played by Carl Glusman, who's kind of a friend. You know, he's a friend. He's helping her out by taking these pictures of her, and maybe he wants a little bit more than that, but she is underage. And then he gets kind of tossed to the wayside so that she can embrace that neon demon. She can become the Dark Swan, if you will.
So you're right, like Heathers or like Black Swan or something like that. There's a definitely undercurrent of jealousy and sacrifice. And of course, you got your Witch's Covenant. You got 3 women, which is I believe Gigi, Ruby,
Sarah and Ruby,
Ruby, who make a pact and just let's end her. Not only just end her, but let's consume her almost. Yeah.
Well, and the choice is we can't do it when she's innocent. And that's why they're kind of playing to the scales. But again, this revelation comes too late in the movie for me. Where like the pieces start to come together way too late in the movie. Because so much like looking back on the film, once you know where it's going, you can see where those choices are being made, but they're not being made prevalent enough. They're not really hitting you with those plot devices and these plot points to make those parts matter to what happens at the end.
And of course, when you have the pack of 3, one is going to be kind of the outsider looking in, and that's the makeup artist, Jenna Malone, playing Ruby, a character who doesn't really understand boundaries at all.
With the living, with the dead, she doesn't understand any boundaries.
And that's, I think, is the whole point of her character, is somebody that's not going to, be just want to inject herself in any situation.
Yeah, and in fact, that's how we meet her. Is she's injecting herself into the situation.
Whether you like it or not, she's going to involve herself.
Yeah, Jessie is cleaning off this fake blood from this, photo shoot that she did, and Ruby's just kind of there. And we don't even really like Jesse is kind of wondering, what's she doing here? Like, what?
Yeah.
You're not really here for. Like, what do you just? You're here. You're here. What are you doing this? And and that's kind of the intrusiveness of Ruby throughout the film. As she kind of keeps pushing herself into the narrative, and I think because of that, we're kind of wondering what's her reasoning. Because she stays in it that long.
But there's no evolution to that character.
No.
The next one is Gigi and Sarah. Here are two people that probably rise up together. They're kind of matching dualities, right? They're almost like match, go together. Almost, you can probably say they're almost like twins.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to invoke somebody into their pack.
Yep.
Even though they will probably work with them, but they have a certain jealousy of Jesse being involved. It's almost like a threat.
See, and that's one of the things I really liked about both those characters, specifically.
And I think
Gigi
they're both
played by Bella Heathcote, who we remember from Professor Marston in the Wonder Women.
Yes,
Bella Heathcote's character. What I liked about her is that she wanted to keep Jesse in the narrative. Like, she kept pulling her in, but then hating on her, pushing her away, and being violent towards her. And it's kind of that part of it too, where you want to surround yourself with beautiful people, but then you also want to take them all out. It's kind of a cutthroatness to Gigi's character that I really respected.
Almost like in a party, right?
Yeah.
Which one of the best scenes. I like the gaffing of it. It's a technically beautiful film.
Yeah, I can't find a single flaw with the cinematography. I think the music is amazing. I think the sound editing is bonkers good.
Score,
this film was not nominated for a sound award at the Oscars. It's got some of the best sound editing and mixing I've seen in a movie in a long time.
That's probably what drives it, right?
Yep.
The sound mixing. Especially the music of Ruby watching them wash the blood off.
Mm-hmm.
Abby and Bella washing the blood off, and then she's almost memorized by that. But there's a certain music that enhances the tone. That she's never going to be part of this group, even though she participated.
Yeah. Going back to that scene, isn't it kind of weird to you that we have a male director who's trying to, he kind of pulls a Zack Snyder in that he's kind of saying no, we shouldn't be objectifying women, and then here's a scene with male gaze to the end.
Yeah.
And I say that in comparison to Zack Snyder because he was skewering violence against women in Sucker Punch by showing violence against women in Sucker Punch. And so I just I had this, that's kind of my problem, is that it seems like Refn is trying to kind of point out what's wrong with modeling, what's wrong with our society in terms of its beauty standards by doing the exact same thing that he's doing it with. And it feels weird to me that he's not really undermining it. He's kind of embracing it at the same time.
And what I think is his reason probably why he hired a female cinematographer to do this movie, Natasha Breyer, to the cinematography for this movie. Probably understanding that we're going to have to do some of these scenes that seem kind of male gazing.
Yeah. And I think that's why he also wrote the screenplay with one or maybe two women. I can't remember how many people wrote. He had females writing the screenplay with him, and I think that was a strong point. That's why I'm not going to try and pick it apart by saying that that's wrong. Because I don't think a male director can't do this kind of work. I just celebrated Lee Whannell's doing The Invisible Man, which is a movie about trauma and about violence, male dominance over women.
God, yes.
And in his case, though, I know for a fact that he included Elizabeth Moss in the writing of the screenplay. He had her read the scenes over and give him feedback so he could change them. So that may have been the case here too. I'm just pointing out, it seems weird to me that he's trying to skewer beauty standards by.
I get it. You're right. Yeah, because you have from Ruby's point of view, and the dangers of you're a male director. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But you're going to have from Ruby's point of view that you're not going to be part of this group at all.
Yep.
No matter how intrusive you get, you're not going to be part of it, and nobody's going to really love you. It's almost one of the tragedies of the movie. Yeah, and
in fact, they're not the only ones going after Jesse. We get the incredibly disturbing Keanu Reeves portrayal.
This is very disturbing, right?
Which is the whole thing is I don't like Keanu Reeves playing bad guys because he's always kind of playing himself. And so, because you can't really separate Keanu Reeves. When he's John Wick, you're like, yeah, it's Keanu Reeves kicking butt. When he's in The Matrix, you're like, oh, it's Keanu Reeves, bending time. And in this movie, it kind of comes up again where it's I want to like Keanu Reeves because it's Keanu Reeves. But he's disturbing and creepy.
Gross.
And I don't ever want to hear someone say real Lolita type stuff. Like that's a good thing.
Right.
I don't want
there's
that.
somebody up there that you can. Right. And then he has a mountain lion, which kind of is a whole catalyst to make it a little more surreal. Even though he has a mountain lion for a pet. Yeah. Yeah. With the element of surrealism to put into the movie to show that it's a little more of a style. And like Kyle says, there's really nothing underneath. We talk about Blue Velvet, but there's a lot underneath to it.
Yeah.
There's really nothing underneath the surface. The characters don't really change, even though Jessie goes through an experience of being innocent, naive, told
hers is a force to change, you know?
Something that we explained through the dialogue, she knows she's going to be, everybody wants to be, she's going to be the star.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't go to LA to be a star. She is a star going to LA, right?
Yeah.
That's what
I like that line that she says early on where she says there's a lot of things she can't do. She goes, but I know I'm pretty and I can make money off that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's something that like a beautiful person very much could say.
I know what it looked like, right?
Yeah. And I can make money off that. And I think like that's, again, there's some great dialogue in there, but it's just peppered in through some stuff that I kind of just found like mehing a lot. But you know, we talked about kind of the males in the film. I like that we get a good guy in Dean. I do like that we get a good guy.
The photographer
that is genuinely interested in her for her.
The amateur photographer.
Yeah, the amateur photographer. But then we also get the Hank, and then we get Desmond Harrington's. Jack. Desmond Harrington, who I think is an incredibly underrated actor. I loved him in Taken back in 2001. He was great in Wrong Turn. He deserves more love. But then we also get Alessandro Nivola as I can't remember his name, but he plays like kind of the other guy that's like trying to bring her into the fashion world, and he even presents her as like that moment with the model where he's like, what do you see about her? Is she beautiful? And he's kind of like, he's skewering. I like that we get some bad guys, but we also get a good guy at least.
Doesn't Hank say beauty is not everything, it's the only thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Or that's not the only thing, it's the everything. Whatever, it's mixed up the interchange.
Yeah.
But here the photographers are just cringy as heck.
Just creepy, dude.
I don't think you can get away with now having a photographer with a model alone at all anymore.
But I think that's the point of the character, though, is that I don't think in most normal circumstances you could get away with it. But that's, again, Refn pointing out that powerful men can still get that.
Right.
You know, powerful men can still do that.
Still, we're in a movie. I don't think in reality you can do it anymore, but in a movie, yes.
But I do think in reality, men get away with it. Like, that's the whole, like, you can't, but I still think it happens. You know, and I think that's kind of what's at play there is Desmond Harrington's character is like, you know, I think he even knows that he shouldn't be doing this, but he still does it because he can.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the disturbing quality of Jack. And the fact that I think it's obvious that Elle Fanning is underage because she seems very young and juvenile, but in Hollywood, as long as you don't tell us, we'll be fine. And that's kind of, again, that part where it's like, it made me uncomfortable, but I see what's going on.
Christina Hendricks did this movie just right after Mad Men. Mm-hmm. She jumped into this movie. She doesn't have a lot of scenes. She barely has 2 scenes.
Yeah.
But she makes the most of it.
Well, and as someone, I know that Christina Hendricks was a model prior to acting, and like she does put herself in that position where you can tell that she was a model. I mean, Christina Hendricks is a very beautiful person, and you can tell that she had a career in there, and now she's agenting people into that realm. And it's funny because, again, Hendricks is not an old actress, or she wasn't even like playing a person who's like formerly a model. She's not old, but in modeling, she's old.
She's
yes. They kind of point out. I think they said something like once you're out of like 25 or something like that, you're dead.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like, again, nothing wrong with Christina Hendricks, but because she's not 24 anymore, she can no longer be a model, her character, so she has to kind of agent people into this world. And again, like, I love the things that he's pointing out and skewering. I just think you gotta have a story.
Well, yeah, and I like he sets the camera at a distance when Christina's picking out people in the waiting room. Mm-hmm. That there's almost there's no intimacy involved. It's all shallow, it's all surface, it's all glass.
And that moment, I was waiting for it. I knew it was coming in this scene, and it doesn't take away from how good that scene
was. No, but she holds it pretty good.
And she goes, you can go. And then she leaves. And she has maybe a half second of looking at this person, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
And it's obviously
far more violent, right? It's far more violent than some of the gore in the movie.
I've got a few. I hate that I have to say this, but Nick, let's talk about necrophilia. There's one scene in this movie that I think is the worst scene in this movie because it has no purpose in this movie.
I agree.
And it's the problem with it again is I know that it wasn't in the script. And it's just Refn just doing something to shock.
I agree.
And I think if that scene had a purpose in the movie, fine.
Right, yeah.
But because it's in there, it just feels like a person trying to shock and trying to upset. And that's maybe my biggest problem with The Neon Demon, is that there's so many moments where he's trying to, get a shock from
get
you,
a reaction,
get a reaction from you,
no.
And it's like, I want your movie to speak for itself. I don't want you to tell me how to feel. And that's how that scene made me feel. Is it made me feel like this better have a purpose. And when the movie ended, that scene was the one that stayed in my head, and I was like, and that doesn't have a purpose, and it made me mad because you question then every other scene of shock in the film.
I think if you took it out, it would be better.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes of that movie that could have been wiped out, and that movie would have risen a couple levels.
Gaspar Noé made a career of doing that.
Yep.
And I think Nicolas Winding, he injects it.
Yep.
But Gaspar Noé intentionally does that throughout his movies all the time. You can criticize him for it, but going into that, that's the whole point of his movies.
Yeah. And that's kind of the same thing with Lynch. Watching a Lynch film like Blue Velvet, you know what you're getting into once you've seen a David Lynch film. And I think that's kind of the case with a lot of these filmmakers. Yeah. But I'm glad you brought up Noé, because I really wanted to kind of bring up this comparison piece. Yeah. In these two films that I think showcase a very dark, stylized substance, or like style over substance kind of thing. We talked about Climax a while ago. We talked about The Neon Demon. Now, there's one difference between these two films, and that is that when I watched Climax, I didn't feel like I ever needed to see it again. The Neon Demon has stayed with me since I watched it.
I know, bothered.
And I know that in my heart, I don't want to watch it right now, but I know that down the road, I'm gonna pop that disc back in and I'm gonna see it again.
Like I said, it bothers me.
Yep. And I think I'd rather have a film that elicits a strong, violent reaction from me than one that doesn't elicit a reaction at all. And I think that's where The Neon Demon is kind of at its strongest, is that Refn, other than that one scene, shocks you with what he's trying to say, and it makes you mad, and it makes you want to revisit it.
I do like the excuse that why they did what they did to Jessie, that they almost they want all of her and consume her to, somehow mythically get her essence. Yeah. And then through magic, she retorts back to him. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just wish that was more prevalent throughout the narrative.
Yeah.
Because it feels so interjected 30 minutes before the end of the movie. It feels like he was like, well, I gotta have some sort of ending. Oh, we'll just do this after each shot. Because I know he shot the film chronologically. So it feels to me like this was an after effect.
Oh, that's gonna be painful.
Yeah, it feels to me like something he came up with as he was shooting. And he didn't go back and insert more, because if that had been more prevalent,
right, you get a feel that they didn't have an ending when they started this.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's something I just wish that he had gone back and fixed some scenes, add some scenes, tweak some scenes, so that ending was more palatable. Because you know what it reminded me of in a complete different direction is From Dusk Till Dawn, where it starts out as one kind of movie and about halfway through it veers completely in a different direction.
Which is fun.
The thing about it is From Dusk Till Dawn didn't frustrate me when it did that, because that's exactly what I was hoping for.
It was like
this film kind of takes that turn, and you're like, oh, we're doing that. Okay.
Super glossy, stylized, supermodel photo shoot, and everybody's there, but that's, yeah. So, have you seen The Neon Demon? Are you part of the group that really hates it, are going to boo it, or are you part of the cheer of it? I'm actually going to cheer it. I think Kyle's ears going to kind of boo it. But
I cheer half of it and I boo half of it.
There we go.
And the problem is I would be like, boo! Like this in the theater. And the thing is, I'd rather boo, because then you want to watch it again.
Yeah, but overall, it's tough to say that, because people, do you like it? And it's like, it bothers me. Yeah. That's what I'm stuck with it. It bothers me. And either good or bad, but I go back to watch it.
That's what's funny about it, is because people said this is one movie, I was told this, you were going to love this or you're going to hate this movie. And to love part of it and hate another part of it means that I kind of come out of it, it's okay. Yeah. So I am kind of in that middle ground.
But I think the musical score, really, without that musical score, it's nothing.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like I got to interject with this. Refn reminds me of George Lucas in that I think that he knows, he's kind of like George Lucas in that he's got certain faculties that he's really good at. Yeah. But I think he needs to hire someone to write his work for him.
Oh, kidding.
And much like, I mentioned before, Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder has a lot of gifts as a filmmaker, but writing credit is not one of them. And that's okay. You're great at a lot of other things. But Refn needs someone to turn his story into a screenplay. Yeah. And that, if he can find somebody that can do that for him, where he can come up with the story, hand it over, and then pick it up directing, he's got a winning, filmmaking strategy.
Make opinions known in the comments down below if you like it or not. Tell us what you know about The Neon Demon or Nicolas' others films. I know you did Drive.
I'm primarily looking for people that love and people that hate the movie. I want you to really dig in and tell me what you loved about it or what you hated about it, because I do think that that's kind of like the fun thing about this movie.
It's always going to be color, for God's sake.
Yeah. Is there's so many things to love and there's so many things to hate.
Yeah.
And that, you can always give them credit for that because it keeps them in the conversation. But let us know in the comment section down below, and also don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out that Patreon down in the description. We got
some great options, so we're still putting stuff in there.
Yeah, we can't wait to have more content. We're doing some really great things over on the Patreon, so please join us for that. That's all the time we've got for you guys. Again, you can find all my film reviews on goatfilmreviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, and you won't catch me on a photo shoot.